Western Pennsylvania has a wealth of racing history, and some of that is on display at a museum in Pittsburgh. Jan has more.
Hello, we're here today at the Senator John Heinz History Center in downtown Pittsburgh, and with me is Ann Mataras. She is the director of this center. Ann, how are you doing today?
Great, thanks for coming.
Well, thank you for inviting us. How did it come about that this additional wing was added to the center for the Sports Center?
We decided that one of the stories people from this region love and identify with is sports. And when we built the new wing to the museum in 2004, we knew the Sports Museum had to be part of it.
Okay, and I hear that there was a Champions Committee?
There's a committee chaired by Franco Harris that has worked with us since about 2002 to collect the objects that you see and help us build the stories, make the connections, and even to do programming and publications to keep the museum alive and lively.
Now, when you started off, you didn't really have a whole lot to display.
We didn't. We had a very small collection, and we knew that we were going to need kind of insiders to help us get the great stuff that you see all around you in the Sports Museum today.
And how was the grand opening?
It was a huge opening in 2004. Hundreds of people, and a lot of the champions were there. People from the Pirates, the Penguins, the Steelers, Pitt Stars, and we brought together the greatest athletes in the nation who have a Western Pennsylvania connection to help us kick off the Sports Museum.
I bet that was exciting.
So
how did the auto racing section come about?
People have said to me, there's a great untold story and great history of auto racing in this region that has to be part of the Sports Museum. And if you want to tell that story, you've got to talk to Don Gamble. He's the person who can connect you to the history, help you find stuff, and make it work.
And it looks like he did a fantastic job.
He did. Don's been with us since about 2002, and he really was the person who helped us put all this together.
I'm with Don Gamble of Rappin' On Racing. Don, we met in Pittsburgh's Pennsylvania Motor Speedway, and you told me about this auto racing history museum. And I didn't know about it. I had never heard about it before. And not only did you tell me about it, but you told me that you actually were the one who designed it, set it up.
Yeah, in 2002, Ann Mataraz contacted me about helping out with this part of the museum, and we got together and we worked for about 2 years. They actually opened up in 2004, and I'm kind of pleased with what they did. They have a nice representation of Western Pennsylvania auto racing history.
Now, she was told to contact you because you would know all about this. Why were they thinking that you would know everything about this? You have quite a history in racing.
I started racing when I was 15, and then I worked at several of the speedways. I promoted a speedway. But the main thing is my radio show, Rappin' On Racing. This is year 31, and I suspect one of the listeners told Ann, give this guy a call and he can help you out.
Now, Don, this section has to do with the speedways of Western Pennsylvania, and it looks like they have all that ever existed. I mean, it's possible they might have missed one or two, but my goodness, that's an awful lot of speedways, and I know it includes drag racing and dirt and asphalt tracks. What can you tell us about this display?
Well, what we did, as of 2002, this was any track that ever existed in Western Pennsylvania. And the green ones are still in operation. The red ones, years ago, if somebody would have a farm, they'd just cut a track in and maybe it would last a year or two. But the ones that were able to sustain it are still in operation today. Then we have a guide, a key down here that tells about each track, where it's located, and what kind of cars race there. Probably the most famous one on that list was Heidelberg Raceway, which closed down in '75. Part of the problem was the oil crisis, where people couldn't get gasoline and you had to wait in line, and the promoter at the time was Tommy Colella, and they wanted him to sign a 3-year extension on his lease, and he wasn't sure if that would be viable. But then eventually after that, Interstate 79 came through there and took part of the property anyway. But one of the most famous racetracks in the United States.
Also, there's a display that gives a little description of auto racing history, how it started off, where it really wasn't competitive. It was just one car racing and timing it and seeing how fast, and the next one racing, which we do still do sometimes at the beginning of races, but then we do make them competitive now. And it also has other posters that are antiques, I suppose.
Yeah, Jennerstown is back in operation, had been closed for several years. You know, the Vintage Grand Prix, it's a big, big deal here in Pittsburgh. It's 7, maybe 9 days. The money goes, that they generate from it goes to the Autism Society. At the Allegheny Valley School, they've raised millions of dollars for autism, which is very nice. Here's a shot of one of the board tracks. They had one in Bridgeville, they had one in Altoona, and there was a third one which escapes me where it was located, but that's way back, and the tracks were made out of wood. And as the years went by, the wood deteriorated and they had to close down.
Now, I'm a history buff, and you throw racing into the mix, I think that's a great combination. Now, unfortunately, we didn't have time to take a tour the day we did the interviews, but I hope the next time I'm in Pittsburgh, I'm going to definitely stop by.
Well, we will be returning next week on the show for the second segment of this 3-part series.
Coming up next, here on Pit Pass, we will go to Selinsgrove Speedway for some URC sprint car action. Keep it here.
Raceway 2014. For tickets, call 1-800-RACEWAY or visit PoconoRaceway.com.
Don't you wish you could just escape sometimes? Now, get away with the Seagram's Escape Spa Day Getaway. One lucky winner and a guest will get the ultimate spa treatment from the spa at Kenley and Belfont. Just be 21 or older and register at these Seagram's Escapes retailers: Jack's Six Pack, State College; Denny's Beer Barrel Pub, Clearfield; Big Valley Beverage, Reedsville; Strickler's Beer and Ice, Huntington; and Boulevard Takeout, Lewistown. Color your summer with the Seagram's Escape Spa Day Getaway.